A Yorkshire woman who contracted Lyme disease because of her cat has told Look North there's a lack of awareness about the condition.
Yeah, Lyme disease is carried by ticks. It can be debilitating, but Lisa Vallow lived with it for 14 years before being diagnosed. Now, experts in Yorkshire say cases of the disease are likely to increase as our climate gets warmer. Here's our climate correspondent, Paul Hudson.
It's made my life a misery. 16 years now I've been living with this. It's just been awful, and the worst thing about it is there's nobody to turn to.
Lisa's story starts 16 years ago, after she was bitten by a tick that her pet cat brought into the house when she lived on Baildon Moor.
Woke up one morning to find a black spot on my tummy. I tried scratching it off, it couldn't come off, so I went into better daylight, scratched it off, and then I had to pick it off because it was so stubborn. And my tummy was bleeding, and I looked at this little creature, and lo and behold, it had legs and they were wriggling.
Ticks can be found typically in woodland, heathland, moorland, forests and urban parks. Lyme disease is a bacterial infection that can lead to severe mental and physical problems if it's not caught within the first few weeks of being bitten by an infected tick. At the site of the tick bite, a bullseye-shaped rash may be visible, but for some people like Lisa, there's no rash at all. Lisa's symptoms have been debilitating.
The symptoms were very flu-like, coupled with amazing tiredness and lethargy and a feeling of walking through mud. A bit like Groundhog Day, you wake up every morning and it's the same old thing, that same old feeling. A little bit like there's a vice in your head as well and it's squeezing.
So just how common are ticks in Yorkshire? I went to see wildlife expert John O'Ledley.
They're tiny little creatures and you don't really see them from when they get attached to you. There'll be lots and lots of ticks here. Some of the Yorkshire Wildlife Trust team work up on the North York Moors and the Yorkshire Dales and, in long grass and areas where there's lots of deer particularly. They get tick bites frequently, so every day when they've been out working they'll have to check themselves carefully.
With warmer temperatures as a result of climate change, ticks are expected to be active for longer, extending the time when it will be possible for them to pass on the disease. Average daytime temperatures in Yorkshire have already risen in the last 60 years, with climate projections suggesting they will continue to climb in the coming decades.
The kind of wetter summers we're getting are brilliant for ticks, and warmer autumns and things like that means that they can just continue with their life cycle for longer.
Now, ticks can be found in woodland like this. Now, most of them will not contain the bacteria that leads to Lyme disease, but some could. Now, according to the National Institute of Health and Care Excellence, the 3,000 cases in the UK every year may well be an underestimate because GPs are not obliged to report the number of cases. And one of the biggest problems is the lack of medical knowledge on the subject in the UK. It took Lisa 14 years to get diagnosed, eventually by experts in Germany.
Doctors didn't believe I had Lyme disease. It was really, well, it's so rare, you haven't got that. I spent quite a few occasions at the Infectious Diseases Clinic in Bradford where they just laughed at me and basically told me that I was a hypochondriac.
Lisa's story is all too common, and with temperatures forecast to rise further in the coming years, some believe that Lyme disease may become the first epidemic of climate change, a disease which currently has no known cure. Paul Hudson, BBC Look North.
Well, let's find out a bit more about Lyme disease, shall we? Veronica Hughes is from the charity which campaigns on behalf of people with the condition. She's helped to advise the NHS on the issue and has had the disease herself. Veronica told me that people had spent years suffering just like Lisa without diagnosis.
The charity that I work for, Caldwell Lyme Co, did a survey of UK Lyme disease patients, and we found that about 2/3 of them had been ill for at least 2 years before they were diagnosed, and lots of them had been ill for more than 5 years before they found out that they had Lyme disease. So it's not an unusual problem for people to be ill with Lyme for many years before they get a diagnosis.
So is there still further to go because patients are going to Germany to get the correct diagnosis?
The type of treatment that patients get on the NHS doesn't seem to be enough for lots of people. We have quite a lot of people who go through that treatment, they remain horribly ill. The big question for the NHS is why. Some of them may still have an active bacterial infection, but some of them may not, and we don't have a test that can tell the difference. Patients obviously want to try more treatment and hope that that will make them better. Doctors are a bit more reluctant because they don't have evidence to work on, and they do want that confidence of knowing that they're basing their treatments on evidence and proof.
We must point out that Lyme's disease is still very rare, but how concerned are you by something that was flagged up in that piece, that because of the warmer weather we're likely to see more cases of Lyme's disease in this country?
Well, the statement that you made that Lyme disease is very rare is a question that nobody can answer. The fact is we don't actually know how common or rare it is. We don't have a reliable test. We don't know how many people catch Lyme disease and never even get Lyme disease considered by the doctor. They may be diagnosed with something completely different and the question of Lyme disease is never raised. We have no idea. It's very, very difficult even to find out. What we need is more research and a reliable test. We need a truly reliable diagnostic test for Lyme disease. The discussions about climate change potentially increasing the rate of Lyme disease are very interesting. That does seem to be happening. It's one of the most plausible theories. Lyme disease has been increasing, according to World Health Organization statistics, at about 14% every year across Europe for the last 2 decades, and there's no sign that that's slowing down. So there is something driving quite a rapid increase in cases of Lyme disease.
Veronica Hughes, thank you.
Well, next tonight, do you want to know